G'day guys, welcome back to the Devon Too Good investing channel. So over the past few years, China have been investing billions of dollars into creating their own semiconductor chips. So they've been investing billions of dollars trying to build their own foundries, start their own semiconductor companies, and be self-reliant so they do not have to purchase billions of dollars of chips from the US. So in this video, we're going to be looking at whether China is a threat to Micron and whether we need to be worried as shareholders. So my first major point on why I don't think China is a threat, or at least a major threat to Micron, is that the supply of foundry equipment is only made by a few key players. And what I mean by this is, when you create a foundry, obviously you need a bunch of equipment, and there's only a few key players that make the equipment. For example, the silicon masking technology that Micron uses, it is provided by ASML, and there are US embargoes in place. So what this means is that ASML cannot sell their silicon masking technology to Chinese companies. And if they choose to, that means that US companies will not be allowed to purchase the silicon masking technology from ASML. So pretty much ASML has to choose whether they supply to China or whether they supply to the US. And at the moment, it's far more beneficial for ASML just to supply to the US. And this masking technology is very critical in producing DRAM. And pretty much, if you don't have it, if you don't have ASML's technology, you're not going to produce the very best chips. So there's also Zeiss, and Zeiss will not sell their lenses to China. And the lenses are very important in projecting image into the silicon wafer, which is then used to produce the DRAM. And these here are just two examples of materials that China cannot get their hands on because of the US embargoes. And even if China invests billions of dollars into semiconductor industry, they still don't have access to these key technologies. And because of this, it has made China technologically behind the US competitors and the South Korean competitors when it comes to DRAM and NAND. And what this exemplifies is that you cannot buy your way to success in semiconductors, as you cannot replicate all the suppliers, and it is much more complex than just throwing a bunch of money and creating semiconductor industry in China. And there's an interesting case study with Huawei. So over the last few years, China have been pushing their own Chinese companies to use Chinese-made semiconductors. And essentially Huawei said to China, or the government, that pretty much if you force us to use these Chinese chips, our products are going to be behind the 8 ball compared to our competitors, and that our Chinese chips just don't have the same performance, and they don't have the same reliability, and they don't last as long. As a result, that shows, that's more reason behind why China isn't a major threat. Furthermore, there's two more reasons why the threat of China is mitigated. And these two reasons I talked about in my previous video on explaining Micron's competitive advantage, which I'll leave a little thing for you to click on the screen. So the first reason is the massive barrier to entry. Micron's factories cost $5 billion plus to replicate, and these factories take 3+ years to build and ramp to scale. And also they have intellectual property. So Micron has over 40,000 patents, and these patents stack on top of each other. For example, DDR1 RAM, DDR2 RAM, DDR3 RAM, and it keeps stacking on top of each other. And these two factors mean Micron's business is very hard to replicate. Therefore, these new businesses starting in China, despite having all the money, they still need the time and they still need the patents. And then, of course, they still need the supply from these other companies outside of China in order to create their semiconductors. And without that supply, it's going to be very hard to compete, as they won't have the superior technology. So anyway, guys, in conclusion, China is, you got to watch them. They're going to be very hell-bent on progressing their technology in their country. However, it's a lot more difficult than just throwing money. This problem for China cannot be solved with money. Money is one factor, time's another factor, and getting the supply. And that's another thing with the supply chain. The supply chain is very complex, so that's going to be another thing that China has to build out, and they're going to have to get past those US embargoes. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.